Hello everyone, welcome back. My apologies if things go a little weird. My computer blue screened on me a couple minutes ago, and so was frantically trying to get everything reset back up and ready to go. And so I've made some changes and I updated some stuff last minute. What could possibly go wrong? So my plan for tonight was to circle back on the material design library. I wanted to go through. There was a bunch of, I guess, bugs and different things that have come up, and so I was going to take a look at trying to fix some of those and just see how that goes. So let's dive in and see how things go. So for those people who are interested, let's see, copy link. Yeah, got it. There is the um, material design in XAML link, which is the one we were going to go. I was going to poke at, I think I'm just going to downgrade this to bug real quick and might just see, I'm tempted to just kind of start with I might just start at the top. There's a huge backlog here, and at some point I kind of want to try and get all of this taken care of, but there is a lot going on. The one that interested me the most should include more space next to the dialog. So this one here is specifically around the material design dialog, and it's kind of hard to see. Let's fire this up. I think it's probably easiest to see in the demo. It is somewhat difficult to see in the dark theme, which is how I typically operate. Dialogs, right? So if we kick this guy over to light theme, right? And it doesn't really matter what. There's this little itty bitty, and here, let's see if I can get all of my commands up because they clearly weren't all started. If we look really close, right around the edge of this border, there is there's a bit of a shadow right there. And so if you click just next to the edge, it doesn't dismiss the dialog. But if you shift your cursor over a little bit beyond it, apparently this one doesn't have light dismiss. So that is a horrible example. Let's find one that has light dismiss. Yeah, so that one has light dismiss. I can click off. But if I click right next to the dialog, and it's worse on the right and the bottom edge, just with the direction that the shadow is moving. But that shadow is apparently grabbing the click events. So that was going to be the first one I took care of, because this is likely a fairly easy thing to address. So we were going to grab this, and I was just going to shift this guy to the side, and I was going to watch this. So specifically, when I click here, are you not grabbing mouse events? Mouse down, mouse up. Interesting. I sort of anticipated, because that's on the dialog. That's not on the dialog. And then I get all the way over to there, and then it goes. So something is not letting that through. So rather than snoop, this might end up just being a little bit of trial and error to find this guy. So let's go down here, and we're going to start with the dialog host theme, because I have a sinking suspicion that it has to do with that shadow, and so that is where we're going to look first. And more specifically, inside of WPF, there's a concept of called hit testing. So when you click on a particular point, even though you've laid out your UI and XAML or whatnot, WPF then has to figure out what is that thing that's under your cursor, right? And so that's the concept of, okay, now I have to actually walk down and see what is the first thing that's actually underneath the cursor. And it's not necessarily always the first thing there, because things that are, say, transparent or not hit test visible, the click then passes through to the thing underneath it. And my working theory here is that this guy is getting picked up, and I don't remember where that shadow is, whether it's part of the pop-up or the card or similar. And it could be, I'm just looking to see what is here. So the shadow itself isn't on here. Sup, Robert? Welcome back. We're chasing down an interesting thing with what I believe is going to be pop-up or shadow related. So this dialog guy here, if I click right next to it where the shadow is, no dismiss. If I move all the way over to here and click, it does dismiss. So, working theory. The thing with the shadow is consuming the click, but nothing showed in Snoop, which was interesting to me. Yeah, I'm thinking that whatever thing has that shadow is probably hit test visible, and shouldn't be. Ooh, here's a theory. Here's something I did not try. Let's do this real quick. Let's pop this guy open. If I put my cursor right where the click's not working and hold Control Shift, interesting. It doesn't pick up an element. Not until I get outside of it does it pick up an element. But right here, it doesn't pick up any elements. What the heck? I wonder if it's like adorner layer stuff. The plot thickens. The plot thickens. So this is the guy in question, right? So the content is inside of this card, right? And because if we look at, where's my WPF window? Yeah, it is adorner layer. I'm fairly confident that you're right, specifically. But can't, so in the adorner layer, if you go Control Shift with Snoop, can't you, won't it target that element? Because I don't know if you can hear it. I am rapidly pressing Control and Shift and I'm getting nothing. Not until I get out to here, and not until I get all the way inside, which you'll note now I'm inside of this, the card here. So working theory is that it's, hey, look at that. It's almost like you had just said it's the adorner layer, and you can see that in Snoop, and there's an adorner layer, and I can see it in Snoop. Which seems to imply, well, it's not completely that. So where Snoop's drawing this rect, I can still click in some of the cases and dismiss, but in some of the cases not. So there's something in here, but more importantly, this shows me that it's probably the thing attached. Well, so here's the question. Attached to the card? Probably attached to the card. And I'm going to go with that largely based on if I do this. Right? If I open up the zoomer, I can see that the card is what has this shadow. So, yeah, let's head that direction. Let's head that direction. So here's the card. There's the shadow. And so, working theory, I just axe that, and let's confirm that it is, in fact, the shadow. All right, so if I take that out of there, we're going to restart. Because axing the shadow shouldn't cause the element to go away. I'm going to go with the edit and continue lost its mind. Oh, and just for your knowledge, Robert, and for anyone else who missed last week's stream, in the cool icon pack screen, you know how it's really hard to like generate yourself up some icons for the ICO files? Whatcha! We have our own icon generator now. Tell me that ain't cool. Oh, probably shouldn't put green on green. That looks bad. But yeah, you can now make your own icon generators, and it gens up an icon for you. Lots of extra niceties that... Oh, apparently I can't spell ICO file. We should fix that. Because I don't know what an IOC file is. Whoopsie. Okay, so let's not pay too close attention there. Moving right along. Dialogues. And let's come over here, and I'm going to go back into light theme just because I think the shadow is easier to see here. So if I click right next to it, still doesn't dismiss. Interesting. Oh. Oh, I've got a different theory now. I've got a different theory. Ah, working theory. It's the, yeah. I'm betting there's a, so I'm betting there is a margin between the card. Yeah, I'm going to go with roughly 35 pixels. Well, it's not even. That's what's baffling me a little bit. Is it's not even on the, here, let me bring Snoop all the way onto the screen so it's not floating. Okay, that did kill, oh, it didn't quite kill the shadow completely. There's a default, oh, there's a default shadow. Interesting. Okay, so let's put this guy back. Shadow depth, rather than doing that, let's do depth 0, because that should theoretically axe the shadow completely. Yeah, okay, so it is the shadow. Because now I can click right on next to that guy. Okay, so it is the shadow, and it's the shadow on the card template. Okay, so we'll put that back. Let's go a hunting on the card. Okay, so adorner decorator, blah, blah, blah. This guy here, he has the effect. All that jazz goes from the shadow converter, blah, 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 blah. So I think the solution is hit test visible false? And that should propagate down. Can I set, does the adorner decorator itself? Huh. Let's start with that, because I've never tried to set hit test visible on the adorner decorator itself. Huh. That will be a new and different adventure. And okay, so dialogues. I'm thinking something that would be nice to do is add some command line arguments so I could set my run settings to like default to whatever screen I'm playing with. So now I click right next to it, and it's still no worky. Okay, and I'm gonna restart because I'm not gonna trust that. I'm not surprised that the adorner decorator itself wouldn't work, because this guy, I believe, is in the tree of the element being decorated, and this would be in the actual adorner layer. More importantly, this is the guy that has the shadow on him, so he's almost assuredly the problem. Okay, so do there, run. Still not letting it through. That is interesting. Okay, so what? We know that this guy has to be problematic. I wonder if this grid is what's consuming it. Because if this guy goes away, and the, so let's see here. Let's try this. I don't think this is right, but even that doesn't allow it to click through. Interesting. It just consumes it. What is going on? So let's bring this in. Let's put this one back, because this one turns off hit testing for the entire content of the card. What the heck? Hello. Come back. There we go. Edit continue is struggling. Gotta go back to the Snoop tree. Yeah, I know. Okay, edit and continue plus snoop. Thought the adorner was a sibling. Yeah, so, well, but we've shown that when we set the shadow assist down to depth 0. So just so you're on the same page, right? So the reason why I know depth 0 goes to null is because of this get drop shadow. So there's a static dictionary that maps that enum value to various resources for the drop shadow, and depth 0 maps the effect to 0, which is why I was saying setting depth to 0 is null. So, oh, hang on, while I'm in here, I can't resist. Must, if I'm gonna be looking at the code, I gotta C# all the things. C# all the things. Any more? Ooh, target type new. Any more fancy little dots? Okay. Okay, now we launch. That actually might be a fun little thing to do, is set up the run settings on the project so that we can open the demo app with a desired theme, and pass it through. But if it's a sibling, how does it know how to pass the click through to? That is a great question, Robert, and I am not sure I know the answer. I think so. So let's walk this guy through. In a parent child, it's pretty easy to pass it through. Yeah. Well, I think what's making this a little more confusing is the fact that we've got a pop-up, right? So this guy here, and actually let's test, because I think, oh, this guy doesn't have light dismiss. I was going to say this one here is slightly different in that this one is encapsulated inside the visual tree. So you'll know it slides off as I scroll because it's localized, whereas this is a pop-up, so as I scroll, it doesn't, right? So, but this one has the perk of being able to grow larger than the parent window. This one is constrained to the parent window's visual tree. So you got both. Pick whichever one makes the most sense. Some people care about those features. I personally like using the embedded one almost everywhere, but there are people where that doesn't work for them. So, and I haven't changed the default behavior. The default is to use the pop-up. I've contemplated making a breaking change and inverting that, just because the pop-up sometimes causes people grief and they don't understand why. But I haven't decided which yet, and it's really hard to do that without having telemetry. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So we've got the pop-up root, right? And I have to believe, so 202, 279, 202, 279. Okay, so we are at the card inside of the pop-ups element. And this guy does in fact have a margin, right? There is a margin there. And if we walk up the tree, there is no other margin or padding set. It's just this one here. The part that confuses me is, right, so right here, just barely off to the right, no clicky. Barely over the top, well, I guess it does make me go a little ways up before it clicks. Man, but it feels significantly further. Okay, so working theory. Drop that margin to 0 and see what happens. Right? So that definitely makes it better on that side. So that's what's doing it. Is the pop-up itself is likely getting. The adorner doesn't know who to pass it to, is my theory. See, I'm not so sure. So working theory here, if this margin is what's cropping it off, I've got the theory that the pop-up itself, because a pop-up by default doesn't have UI associated with it, but it is a lightweight window. And I'm wondering if you land in that margin, because this was set at 35 by default, right? And I'm wondering, and the only reason it has that 35 on there is that's the amount of space needed so that the shadow doesn't get clipped. Any smaller and some of these further sides, the shadow starts to get clipped. And if you don't do an even margin all the way around, your positioning gets a little off. But my theory is that if you click in this margin, this guy is getting the click. And despite the fact, so let's clear these events real quick. If I click here, it's just baffling me that this thing, let me check my mouse events. I really expected to see this. So how about preview mouse down is already there? That's what's really baffling me. Is it's like the pop-up is just consuming the event and not reporting it anywhere. And that could be the case because, let's see, how does this work? Inside of Windows, the Windows messaging system will send a WinProc message in for things like keyboard and mouse input. The WPF base windowing system chooses how to handle that. Our pop-up could be choosing how to handle that and doing something bad. So let's check, because I believe, if I'm correct, yeah, we've got our own fancy little pop-up. The adorner is further down the visual tree. Yeah, I saw that. It should show up on top. Agreed with the should. I agree with the should portion of that. I was curious though, because I know we do see, and I'm wondering about this. We do some WinProc level stuff with our pop-up, which is giving me a small amount of pause that this isn't a self-inflicted wound. Can we view events on the adorner? See, Snoop, so yes, if they are, so Snoop will pick up the events from the routed event manager. So if the event gets reported to the routed event manager, Snoop will pick it up. So for example, I click here and we can now see how that propagated through the visual tree, right? Which is great. This is exactly what you want. But what we see here is when I click next to this, nothing, which tells me the event isn't making it to the routed manager, which is why I'm wondering if this is a bit of a self-inflicted wound. I don't, because we do some, so it's worth noting, this pop-up control is based on the one from MAApps, which is using the library from Control-ZX, right? The issue is before, this thing used to be file linked in via packet, and when we moved away from packet into straight NuGet, because we were only file linking in a handful of things, I just copied the code in, which was fine, except for I'm not sure this is set up to handle this. So here's a working theory. That rather, so here, right? Because where is this guy? This card is what has that margin being set, right? Yeah, dialog margin, which is fine, but I have a theory that by doing it here, and by the fact that this guy might do something funky, right? That ends up with nobody handling the click events. I think what I want to do is I want to put a border here. Just a simple border inside the visual tree. Right? So if we do this, and I make the background transparent and is hit test visible false, because I don't think So my theory here is that the click will, I don't think the adorners by default will snag the click events, especially since we very explicitly set is hit test visible to false on both the adorner decorator and its element. However, I'm thinking if I put a border between the card, because right now the card's pushing a margin out, and so the pop-up's being forced to size to account for the margin, which means the click should be getting to the pop-up, but I suspect that's what's suppressing it. If I put a border in the middle, that gives me an opportunity to grab it. So that's my working theory. Go light mode. And we come over here, we go run, we go click. Okay, still no change in behavior, but let's look and see. Because I think now I should be able to see the click event show up here. Because in theory, it should land on my border. Though I did just set my border to hit test visible false. So let's change that. Ah ha 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 ha. There we go. Okay, so that is... Okay, so the clicks here are getting through the adorner to the underlying element, because now my border picks them up. And the pop-up was catching them, but because the pop-up isn't set to do anything, it just throws them away. So now the question comes, how to fix it? How to fix it? So let's think about the obvious situations. So one obvious situation is we could simply post a routed event and let it bubble up. And that would certainly handle it. Right? Because for example, these guys here, if we look, this is bound to some content that is handling this outside of that. If we go here, what is your content bound to? See, this guy's dialog content just posts the closed dialog event. I'm kind of wondering if we do that though. If we trap it in the border and post the close event up, that could work. And I'm assuming this guy here doesn't have a problem. Oh, he does have the problem. Oh, but wait, this guy doesn't have light dismiss turned on. So it doesn't matter. Yeah. We should test with this one though too, with the light dismiss. But let's do that real quick, because I suspect that one will not have the issue because it's within the visual tree. So if we go here, dialogues, let's go down here to sample 3, sample 4, sample 5, DialogHost. Let's see, it's close on click away, true. Right, so we come here, come back here, pop, whoop, and if I click right next to it, it does dismiss. Which makes sense, because unlike this one, there is no pop-up in this UI. It's literally just a grid sitting on top of another grid. It's absolutely as simple as you can make it. But this guy has that pop-up. And I'm kind of wondering, yeah, because if I clear this, right, if I click here, right, so you'll note mouse down on border, and this bubbled up all the way to the, so it went through the pop-up route to the pop-up, went to the DialogHost route, then went to the DialogHost control. So you can see how this event bubbled all the way up. Even though this border is in a different visual tree, right? Because you can see along here, right? So if we go here, right? Because I am in this border here is in the pop-ups visual tree, pop-up visual tree, pop-up visual tree, pop-up visual tree. Whoop! Jumps because it knows how to go up through there, right? Jumps across the logical tree, keeps going up. And then all the way up until somebody decides to handle it. So I'm thinking what we do in this situation, because we only care about clicks, I'm thinking the solution is we put the border in and we do like behavior or similar on it to post the event. Trying to think if that, or actually I guess we don't even need that, do we? We don't even need that because we can, yeah, so let's kill execution for a minute and let's clean this guy up. So if we do this, and I gotta indent, I gotta make it look, gotta make my XAML look pretty. Make that a little bigger. Okay, so here we should be able to do border.input bindings, right? And we should be able to do mouse binding, mouse action, click. What is the, I use this so infrequently. What is the enum member? Left click. And then this is command, and this will be X static. Oh, I just realized something. We really only want to do this. Let's get it working first. Get it working first, then we'll make it better. Because we don't want this to happen. I should say we only want this to happen when close on click away is true. Oh, I guess what we could do though, we'll just bind is hit test visible to that property. That'll work. Yes, that. Muchas better. Okay, so let's see. This is going to be, because we're inside the library, not data grid, dialog host, close dialog command, and then we need command parameter, dialog host. No, this needs to be a binding. Or actually, we can do a template binding, can't we? Let's see. Close on, click away parameter. And this guy needs to be a template binding. Close on, click away. So when close on, click away is true, will be hit test visible. When close on, click away is false, and I think we can, we'll leave transparent for now, but I think we can drop it. Because there is a subtle difference on backgrounds of transparent versus not. Because transparent and unset, though visually look the same. Hey, DG01, thanks for the sub. Because the background let's see if I can get this right. Background unset looks transparent, but isn't hit testable. Background transparent looks the same, but is hit testable. I believe that's correct. Hui vey. Okay, so the theory. Here we go. So let's test this. So if I click here, right? Ah, it dismissed. Oh, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Oh, yes. Okay, let's confirm behavior with Snoop. because I want to confirm that I see this thing propagate. So come over here. If I click here, boom. So routed command on borders. So mouse down on border, and you'll note now the border actually handles the event. And then you'll note routed command on border then was fired, and it propagated up through the border all the way until it got to the dialog host, which handled the event because the dialog host is watching for its own routed commands. Okay, so now let's test with transparent removed. So I think we can get away with this because we're, and I think we can get away with this because we're explicitly setting is hit test visible. Worth noting, I believe those to be different. It is different. It's a different value. It has to be different. That's how that works, right? I think that's how it works. Probably. Okay, so let's do this. Dialog. Oh. That's interesting. So run, and I want to go back to light mode for a minute. So I click here. Oh, it's not picking it up. Oh, so exactly what I had mentioned a minute ago about is hit test visible on unset doesn't work. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, and now it's clearing it out. So we do need the background. Because without a background, there's nothing for the hit testing to actually hit. So now if I click here, it goes away. Yeah. Okay, so there's the fix. There is the fix. So let's go and let's PR that. And let's get Kraken open. I need to circle back to my XAML test library, but we are over here today. Oh, I was not on latest, so that's fun. I was off on my other branch. Okay, so let me just check and see what do we got here. We've got this here. Oh, that's right. We wanted to do a couple. I wanted to do some tests on the other one just to confirm we didn't break anything. I want to do the flip off and then the flip on as well, just to. I want to test both of the both samples 4 and 5 in the false case, just to make sure that everything still works as expected. So go light mode. Okay, so there, right, works, not surprising. Okay, we come down here, sample 5, close on, click away, false, right? We don't want that to trigger. And then I want to come up here, close on, click away, false, right? So samples 4 and 5 have been toggled. So click here, and then I click right next to it. It doesn't dismiss. Come up here, click right next to it, does not dismiss. Perfect. That is what we were looking for. Okay, but what that means is up here in our git changes, we are just going to discard everything from the demo app because I don't care. Let's see, shadow converter, that's just C-sharping all the things. Expression bodied member on shadow info as well, great. Okay. This guy, I want to throw, so let's just check this. We'll come back to that one in a minute. So the fix here is to insert the border with the input bindings. That just cleaned up some trailing white space on the end of that, so that's fine. I want to try throwing away these card changes because I don't think these matter. I don't think those matter in the least. So let's retest with those changes gone, and we should see it still work. Because now, let's see, dialog sample 5, that's 5. I want to look at 4 is the one that we were playing with. He should be back to close on, click away, true. Excellent. Okay, so boom, boom. And here, and if I click right next to it, still works. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so those card changes were irrelevant. Okay, so I'm going to just stash real quick and then pull up my master branch, switch to it, create a new branch, fix, and I've already forgotten our issue number. So 2279. So fix 2279, pop my stash. Them's my changes. Let's see. Clicking on dialog shadow now dismisses dialog. Fixes pound 2279. Boom. And push that guy. Let's see. Do I want to go to origin? I'm going to push this to my fork instead and then PR it from there. And then we're going to come over here, compare and pull request. This is going into this milestone, create pull request, and away we go. Now, because I saw it and it's going to bother me, so I'm going to grab my ICO generator, branch, reset it up to here, and then I don't need my cleanup branch anymore. Delete cleanup, delete. And I want to go and change that slight spelling error that I noticed because that's just dumb of me. Let's see, color zone, pop-up box as export pack icon as an ICO file. ICO file. That's where that guy goes. Cool. So we're just going to go here, stage, fixing spelling mistake. Let's see, create and push. And because this is an old branch that I used previously, it's going to be all kinds of fun. And where did it get pushed to? Push. Ah, it pushed to mine as well. Okay, perfect. Let's see. Nope, not what I was going for. Here, pull requests. Let's see. Fixing spelling mistake. I don't think I could make that any clearer. Create pull request, and we'll go through and do this. Now, part of picking on that one was wanting to somewhat come through and take a look at this pull request. So this one here is a little interesting, and it's very specific to this bug here that was filed. So Tyson raised this bug and did quite a bit of debugging into it. What it boils down to is there is a small issue inside of WPF when using a pop-up with a substantial number of elements, right? And so there is a whole lot of stuff. So so this he wrote it up here, and he actually went and logged a bug against the WPF framework. So for people unfamiliar, WPF is now open source. So if anybody wants to powwow on the WPF source code, you can go and submit pull requests and log issues and whatnot. This guy here goes through and calls out a whole bunch of changes. He outlines some of the issues, and then he pulls out that there's several workarounds at least that he's found. So removing the visibility binding on the custom pop-up, swapping the order of the two triggers, and removing the trigger on primary content. So the pull request that he has here, so this is it's a very simple pull request. It disables the enabled trigger on the content presenter. Now, this is kind of a breaking change if anybody is relying on us, if anybody's relying on the enabledness of the controls going to false, right? I don't, and this is where I want to review this a little bit, because I don't think that makes. I think there's only one case where it matters. So right now we allow you to set a custom overlay color, but when you set the custom overlay color, so let's actually hunt down this exact line of code real quick, right? So this is line 192, line 192. So this is the control trigger here, right? So when the isOpened property of the dialog host goes to true, right? Content presenter has its enabled property set to false. The content presenter, in this case here, let's just find it real quick, is this guy here. This content presenter is the one that contains it contains the controls that the dialog is going to be displayed on top of. So basically the dialog comes up, the controls behind it get disabled. Now, there's a couple things that happen because of that. So one, the look of the controls by being disabled will change. But it's going to be it's going to be really, so for example here, right? If we look at this, so I'm going to go light because again, I think it's easier to see here. When this comes up, you'll note, what? I'm sorry, why can I not click on you guys? Do I have outstanding changes? I'm on the icon generator branch. I'm going to relaunch because I haven't made changes. Oh, hang on. What is this change? Oh, I just ordered the stuff. That I'm going to go with, I'm hoping that the edit and continue just got its mind confused as I was toggling branches. It has a tendency. The live XAML edit is really good. It just there's limits. Toggling branches and changing out the source code repeatedly underneath it, it confuses it. There we go. So now we're in a clicky state. So you'll note there's a brief moment, right, where things end up showing as disabled, right? Whereas if we remove, because effectively the fix is this, right, is taking off that trigger. Go ahead, apply the trigger, do the content changes, right? So if I cancel, so you'll note there's a subtle difference here, right? These things haven't grayed out, right? This button is still here, right? It is a visual difference. Is that okay? Like the only other thing I can imagine is if somebody was able to quickly get multiple clicks through before this overlay was transparent enough, because there's an interesting part when you're playing with the opacity of controls in when is it opaque enough to be hit testable, right? And there is a very fine threshold. I think elsewhere in the library we've got a threshold set of like 0.002%. So 0.02% is the trigger point, as it were. 0.02, no, because it's already in a percentage. 0.002. And converting that to percentage is messing with my head at the moment. But I'm wondering if this is okay, because I think it is probably more likely, because right now we have a bug, right? There is a bug here, specifically this one, where if you have a large amount of content in your dialog host, this is a problem. I think it is probably more likely that people have a lot of content, then people rely on that enabled state. I think. I also think that the only thing I would change on this PR, I think the only thing I would change on this PR is doing the same change to the embedded dialog host as well. Because it's a visual change, I think I would want the same change there as well. Because I wouldn't want switching between the two dialog hosts to cause a jarring visual difference. Okay, I think we're gonna I'm gonna leave a comment on here and then we'll move on. Neither of these is the pull request. No, this is. Okay, so let's see. However, it does cause a slight UI difference with the controls no longer being disabled. For that reason, can you please update so the embedded dialog host has the same change, so both visually look the same. Okay, I think we're going to go with that, and I think what we're going to do is I don't know, like this definitely needs to end up in the release notes. I wouldn't call it a visual break. Is it a visual breaking change? No, I'm not going to mark it as a visual breaking change, but I am going to flag it for release notes because that's something that I'm sorry, what? I broke something? Oh, this has happened now multiple times where it's unable to do this. So, rerun. Let's see. Yeah, so there it's going. So fixing the spelling mistake, that one passed, right? And you'll note neither one of these. Squash merge. Boom, there. And then delete my branch. Thank you. Okay, so let's go back. Let's see what else is on the chopping block for this. Dialog closing. We're on a dialog host kick right now. Dialog closing event of dialog host is not always raised when the dialog is closed. Okay? The fourth dialog host sample can be closed in 3 ways. Yeah, so this is the one we were just looking at. You can click the dimmed background, right, based on this bug here, the button labeled accept and waiting for a bit, and clicking on the cancel. In each of those ways, this branch modifies the force dialog to write to the console. Okay, regardless of the way in which dialog closed, the dialog closing event is raised. Okay, so that's expected, and I agree. Dialog closing event is only raised when closing the dialog by clicking the dimmed background. Oh, Robert, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let's see. Okay, so well, we were just looking at it, so let's just continue on this kick while we're doing dialog host stuff, right? Prime sub buddy, it's free. I know, but I still appreciate it because you could put that to someone else. I'm sure I'm not the only streamer you watch, but I probably consume the most Mountain Dew out of all of them. Pepsi, call me. I really don't watch Twitch. You watch it a little bit, at least for one of us. Okay, so before I get too horribly distracted. So this is DialogHost 4. Where is the dialog content set? What's the Mountain Dew tonight? Currently, I'm on voltage, but I've got one of my green screen invisible ones as well. For what it's worth. Mostly because that's what my hand landed on when I put it into the fridge. Yes, I have noticed a small problem though with voltage. It is one of the only flavors my wife likes, and so it tends to disappear quicker. She does not like having lots of caffeine or lots of sugar, and so she will nurse a Mountain Dew for a day, slowly consuming it. And voltage is like the only flavor she tolerates. And I use the word tolerate because she usually only drinks it if it's one of those lack of sleep, kids kept us up or something. And yeah, I think that minivan can be filled up some more. No. Okay, so darn you, Robert, you have left me completely distracted. Okay, dialog sample 4. I want to see where is dialog content binding sample 4 content. I want to go here. So this is inside of the ViewModel. Oh, I was just going to check. I really should do this. Okay, just checking to make sure that all of these things have the... Okay, so I'm going to show this off to you, Robert, since I don't think you got to see it last time. So this D data context, right? So you'll note no longer set. You'll note I got 3 little itty bitty dots up here. You go up to your... Uh-oh, come on, designer. You go up to here. I have a light bulb. I click it, and it goes, hey, let me helpfully try to guess what your data context is trying to be. Hey, this one matches your naming scheme. Let's go with that one. And it puts it in for you. That's cool. That is cool. So, for anyone who wants to play with the cool new toy, tools, options, and then if you go down to preview features, and you go down near the bottom, XAML preview features to improve MVVM productivity, right? And then the XAML suggested actions is what I've got enabled. So, and I believe you have to be on a recent-ish preview of Visual Studio. I don't recall exactly which. I think 16.9 or greater. I'm on 16.10, which is latest preview. So for what it's worth, if you have it, I recommend enabling it because it is awesome. There's also a couple other ones that it'll enable for automatically generating properties for you in your view model when you write a binding. So it'll automatically say, oh, you're binding to a property that's not there. Would you like me to generate that for you? It's like, why, yes, I would. Thank you. And whatnot. Okay, sample 4 content. I want to see this guy. So this guy is being set to this. And this guy is what? I just want to see your buttons. There we go. Accept and cancel. What are you guys doing? So this is doing, see, you'll note, it can't find, no data context found. This is a beautiful example. Oh, why don't we go through and set the data context for this? I don't actually know what this thing's supposed to be. Let me go back here. Let's see, sample 4 content. Sample 4 dialog. Where is your... Where does your data context get set? I don't know where this thing is. I don't know what it's bound to. More importantly, I don't know where it gets set. Accept sample 4 dialog. Oh, so it's just inheriting. It's just inheriting the dialog's ViewModel context. Okay, so let's set that guy up. Oh, look, it figured it out. Yes, please. So wonderful, so wonderful. And then more importantly, it did all of the XML namespace includes for me. Thank you. Appreciate that, Visual Studio. You are awesome. Styles should really be static resources because dynamic resource has an additional overhead because it watches for changes. And so you should only use it for things that are potentially going to change. So theming brushes potentially will change. Styles shouldn't be changing. So unless you've done something in your app to do that. Uh, uh, I've never taken the time to learn what ignorable D is about. Do you perhaps know? Why, yes, I do. So it's used to denote that this is not something that needs to be compiled in. It's design time only and should be ignored. So this is effectively telling the XAML compiler, hey, don't worry about this guy when you're converting this thing into BAML for the compiled assembly, because your XAML doesn't get compiled to IL. It gets compiled to a binary representation of this that looks, it's kind of XML-ish. But it tells it, hey, this is design time only. You can just ignore it. So that's all that's for. But more importantly, it just handles it for you. Okay. But yes, given, and normally I won't set my design time context out of sheer laziness. But now that there's like built-in tooling support, and more importantly, tooling support that'll automatically write this for me, yeah, I'm probably setting it everywhere. This is awesome. I am absolutely in love with that. Okay, so this guy here, more importantly, we were really interested in clicking the buttons doesn't raise the event, so we want to see what the button does. This guy comes into here. And let's see. So the cancel sample for dialog sets the Boolean to false. This guy swaps out the content, which begs the question, should that do it? Probably not. But then sets this thing to false. So I think the bug in question is as simple as the dialog closing event does not appear to be getting raised when its isOpen Boolean is bound and this thing is set to false. And I suspect that is probably the exact analysis that was done here. Closing on the click dim one calls internal close, which raises the dialog closing event. IsOpen is set to false here. The accept by setting the IsOpen dialog to false, which is bound when IsOpen changes. The callback is executed. It does not raise. Well, that seems like a mistake to me. And he very accurately calls out line 14, open does. Workaround is to execute. Not really interested in workarounds. Mostly interested in fixing this. Okay, so there's all of that. Okay, next theme, bobber. I kind of want to write a test, because this feels like something I can write a test on. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna write a test here. So my XAML test library is wonderful, and I don't think the big issue here is my XAML test library currently doesn't support a nice clean way of just registering for the event in here. However, what it does support is writing your own user control and just doing whatever logic you want in that. So we're just going to do that, because that's just as easy. Let's see. Closing event counter. Yeah, go with it. And I think, do you have a ViewModel behind you? I can't remember. No, you're just doing that. Okay, so let's see, with counter we don't care about this guy here. So we need to bind this to something. And in order for this to be a reasonable explanation, so I'm going to just steal some code here real quick. So we want to do this. we want to do. Okay, so what are you unhappy about? Add namespace include for me, please. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we've got a dialog. It's got a button. But I don't. This isn't quite what we want. What we more want to do is do like an is open binding dialog is open, right? So we want something akin to that, right? And this guy is not. He's not going to figure it out. So, and this actually, do we care how we do it? We do want this guy to have a command and be bound, but we don't want it to be this. We want something that we can toggle in our view model. So this is going to be more like binding close dialog command, right? And then we don't need a name on it. That's fine. We need a show dialog. And I think in the interest of making this match, we're going to go all MVVM-y. Open dialog command, close dialog command, and I don't think we don't need this button. We really only need the one button. Oh, that's why there was probably an X name on this. Let's see, close button, because it makes it easier to find it for the test if there's a name on it. So that is result text block. And this is basically my cheater way of handling this is, let's see, show button is, oh, it's already got a name on it. Perfect. Is by slapping it in here, this makes it a whole heck of a lot easier. So let's see, dialog closing, and we will register an event handler. Okay, so step one, come in here, result text block, dot text gets dialog closing. All right, so we'll grab that. We do need a view model, so let's do this. I'm a little curious if this thing will pick it up. Public class closing event view model. I notify property changed. Implement interface. Actually, I think I can even get away with not doing that. Sorry, this is a brief test of me deviating to see how smart this thing is. Oh, it has create view model. Let's see how it works. Let's see, closing event view model. In the namespace, samples DialogHost, destination folder, sample DialogHost. It doesn't detect any base classes. That ain't bad. I was gonna go for nested class, but that's okay. We'll do that. So it generated that up for me. This is one thing that I did comment, or I left feedback on for it, is I do not like the implementation for their set property method. I firmly believe that this should be a quality compare of t.default. Not that it matters a huge deal in WPF because boxing occurs everywhere, but let's not do any extra boxing if it's not needed. So that's my opinion. But the rest of this is fine. That's basically how I would implement it anyway. So let's continue. How far can we push this? Oh, and it even set the dial. Oh, wow. It went to the effort of setting this for me. That's pretty cool. So now if I come down here and do this, let's see. Set data context the user control to close an event view model. So it didn't. Oh, so creating the view model did not set the design time data context, only the data context directly. Okay. Hey, pick it up. I wonder if it needs to be built. Let's compile it real quick. This is almost assuredly This guy's squawking because it doesn't know where this thing is. The WPF designer, it looks at compiled assemblies, which means every time you add types, you have to rebuild. Which is not a horrible limitation, but it doesn't occasionally get annoying. So you'll note that squiggly line went away there. I do wish it would. Wow, that highlight color. That highlight color. Okay. So clean that up. So let's do this. So dialog open, generate me a property. Like, that's too easy. Can you figure out a command for me? Probably not. It doesn't know what the command implementation is. And more importantly, we don't actually have a command implementation here. I think what I'm going to do is pull, because this is tests, I'm just going to pull in the Microsoft one. I try to be not show too much favoritism towards any one MVVM library in this project, since this is supposed to be MVVM agnostic. Toolkit MVVM. As you can see, it's high on my search list. And you'll note, I no longer have to have the preview box checked. This thing's full release. Woot, woot, woot. Happy day. And this will actually be a cool way to show off that feature again, too. So if we go... So now that that's there, this guy should, when I compile this again... So the thing that... The light bulb light up thing in here, it's not just simple logic. Yeah, but when they get it right, it's worth sharing. Amen. Oh, come on. Why you play nice with the other children? Boo. It normally picks, I wonder if this broke at some point. Normally you get the nice little light bulb experience where it offers to gen you up a command. It's going to actually make me like type and stuff. The other thing I would love is if it like followed my naming scheme and followed my white space in my editor config and all that jazz, but oh, that actually why do I not have white space turned on? View white space on. Thank you. Okay, so we need some stuff. Okay. So public I command, let's see here, and we need a open dialog command and a close dialog command. So I need one of you. Let's see. I need one of you. There. That'll work. And then nope, not where I'm trying to click. I'm trying to click there. Good thing I'm not concerned about code generators writing us out of a job anytime soon. Yes, you are pretty safe from that for the moment. Very, very safe. Okay, so this guy here. So we need to do open dialog command gets new relay command. For anybody updating to this library, one of the big gotchas, especially if you're coming from, hey, what is it called? Did it not add the package? Hey. Did I? Grumble. Manage NuGet packages. I didn't add it somewhere else, did I? No. Okay. I apparently am just dumb. Did I go to all the effort of clicking half the buttons and not finish? Install, please. Okay. Accept. Oh, I can't read. That's the problem. Right, centralized package management. Right. So the problem with centralized package management is there is no GUI support. So let's see, Microsoft Toolkit we'll put it here. Toolkit MVVM, and then I need the version number of 7.0.0, and then nope, copy. I come down here and I go, oh, you don't actually, oh, we do have the package references. So we go here, package management, and then I just tell it. So this way you have an easy way of centralizing and managing your things. And while I'm looking at this, I see that there is an update to one of my libraries. Test SDKs is 16.9.1, so we'll just update that too. Test SDK 16.9.1. And you'll note now, because I've done it that way, all my libraries will magically pick up the change. So that's great. It's just somewhat obnoxious because you don't get GUI support. Okay, given that now, let's see. Will you make me, okay, I want to go back into my ViewModel. I want to see if it can be cool and be awesome. Okay. This is your chance. This is your chance, Visual Studio. Show off how awesome this feature is. Don't make a liar out of me. Okay, finish your compiling. You happy? You thinking about being happy? Designer's thinking. There you go. There's my little dots. I saw them. Put them back. Put them back. You know you want to. There you go. Auto code button. No. You're not going to. No. It's doing design time builds all over the place. No quick actions available here, but I really want them. What is your... I wish I could see the... Yeah, I understand. I appreciate you talking to me about the warning. Okay. Won't waste time with it now. Something is broken, and I will spend time looking at that at a different point. Okay, so... liar. I know. I promise it worked in my simple app. Just not working here. Why is packages? Okay, come on. I directly added it. Oh. But it turns out if you don't do a package reference, you don't get it. Okay. If you don't do a package reference, it doesn't actually add a package reference. So that's a thing. Okay. I really want to see this thing. I'm gonna give it one more prayer. Now that I think I finally got it added. All right? Thinking. Come on. Give me that sweet, sweet light bulb. There we are. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. See, not a liar. It does work. You just have to coax it into doing it. So you'll note it generated up a backing field, a property, set the property up for me, mapped it to it. So it found the relay command buried under Microsoft Toolkit MVVM, right? And it just wired up the action event. So worth noting, because I had filed a bug on this, and it got resolved as not a bug. Because this is a preview feature, it doesn't have a lot of documentation at the moment. But we can do this, and then we don't need the constructor. In fact, I'm going to go this far. What is your problem here? You need to be nullable. In order for it to pick up your command, the command needs to have either a default constructor or a single constructor that takes an action delegate in order for it to find it. So if you write your own custom iCommand implementation, it must meet those criteria for the autocode button to pick it up and find it. Okay, so now given that, I can come down here and say, hey, by the way, I would really love it if you would make me an open command too. Designer, come on, you just showed it to me. Don't make me unhappy. Write the code. Write the code for me. Write the code. I didn't leave part of it in there, did I? Nope. There we go. Probably doesn't help. When streaming, the performance of Visual Studio definitely degrades. Definitely degrades. Okay, so, and as you can also tell, it is not hip to nullable reference types. So if you have nullable reference types turned on, you're going to have to do a little bit of doing it. But this, all of that work, so let's see. Dialog is open, gets true. Dialog is open, gets false. Okay, so that was a lot of typing just to set up a test. A lot of typing for a test. But it was fun. Or I had fun, for what it's worth. Yeah, it is a very cool feature, and my understanding is that they are looking to expand it and make it better. This was just first cut. Let's get it out there. Let's get some feedback for it. So if anyone turns it on, and if you find issues or feedback, like the Microsoft team legitimately pays attention to the report a problem and suggest a feature buttons in Visual Studio. So feel free to report them. And yes, expression-bodied methods, or in this case, Robert, expression-bodied members, because they aren't just limited to properties and whatnot. You can do them on methods as well, which makes them more cool. I often do this just because my brain likes to see like method signature, method contents. Like I'm very used to that up-down methodology. But properties have kind of ruined me, for what it's worth. Okay, so now let's go write this test, right? So the key thing to note is we're just going to steal this test to start. And we're going to throw away most of the work that it does. Boom. Okay, so I usually like doing a description attribute that links it back to the relevant issue. So in this case, issue 2282. Right, boom. So let's see. Closing dialog with is open property should raise dialog closing event. Okay. So this test recorder here is just responsible for like screenshots and whatnot on failures. So as long as I put this at the beginning of my test, if a test fails, it'll take a screenshot for me, which is oftentimes very helpful in looking at why did my UI test fail. Let's see, closing event counter. I realize I made this thing I named it counter and then set it to this. So private int closing count, right? So we're just going to come in here and go closing count plus plus toString, right? And we're just gonna lead with that. Oh, and heck, we just got done talking about expression bodied member. Boom. Oh, sure, expression bodied member. See, and those long ones is why I like to wrap them. Okay, so we'll do that. So, and I'm going to just default the text here to 0, just so that it's very clear. Because I think I want my assertion to be this text becomes 1, right? So this comes in here. Okay, so we're pretty much just going to throw away everything. Great. That sounds like kind of what I want. So this is going to give me a DialogHost. Yeah, because it just loads up the control and grabs the first element, which is great. That'll be my DialogHost get element. So the first thing I want to find is my show dialog button. So find me that thing. We'll call it a show button. We will await show button click. Whoop, click. Boom. Okay. And then what we would like to do is, let's see, wait for DialogHost get element. So we want to wait until we can get the close button, which I think we can actually get the, we're going to check because I think I can actually get the close button preemptively. Boom. Let's see, close button. Close button. Because it's part of the, it's not being loaded via a template or anything, it's just straight up content. I'm pretty sure I can just grab it. We'll see. This test may just straight up fail there. We'll see. So then how about wait for how about close button get is visible. Oh, this wants a callback. And async callback, right? And that should take a, yeah, func task, looks for bool, wait for it to become visible. Great. Then we are going to do await close button click. And then we are going to do wait for let's see, async delegate. We're going to do assert what are we using here? Is it XUnit? Yeah. Equals, let's see, 1. Oh, we didn't grab the, what did I call the thing? Result text box. I need to grab one of those things. Boom. Let's see. Result text block. And then I want to do await result text block get text. Let's see. So what is your problem? Oh, assert equal. And yeah, something like that. Run the test. Let's see what happens. Thinking, building, preparing to launch, and the test immediately failed. So let's bring this over here, and I'm going to dock you up here. And let's see, UI test, DialogHost. Come on, expand. There you go. Okay, so where did we fail? We expected 1. You'll note it does, so this wait for does have some built-in timeout, so it'll try 3 times over the course of 2 seconds trying to get it. But there are overloads on this guy. You'll note that retry parameter at the end lets you specify alternate. There's alternate retry stuff built in. So for what it's worth, if you wanna override it, you can do it. But if you specify nothing, those are the defaults. So that did not work. Oh, we expect it to fail right now because that's the bug we are fixing. Okay, so now let's go fix the bug. So we've got a failing test. Now we write the code to make the test pass. Seems rather simple when you think about it. Okay, so we want to go back to our old friend. Let's close out all these. DialogHost. Don't need you, don't need you, don't need you. We want to actually go to the DialogHost control, right? Okay, so, and what we are looking for in particular in this case is the isOpen property, because that is what we are toggling. Let's see, there's that guy. Take me to his dependency property. And this guy's callback. So you'll note is property change callback, which is the thing right below it. All right, we're just going to minimize this and minimize this so we can see what we're doing. Okay, so we come in here. This guy does its thing. And as indicated, it doesn't. It falls into this else case. And then more importantly, what gets a little weird is this else case has an early return, right? And this guy does raise the event while we're in here, expression body member. Just make it a little cleaner as we go. And I think that's specifically what was called out here, right? DialogHost on dialog open. So I think we can simply do, I'm trying to decide because it feels like, let's look at the dialog session. There's a owner internal close, right? Because this guy here, it seems like the issue is fundamentally that this method isn't being invoked. Yeah, and I think that's what we want to do, is we want to effectively just call internal close. So, let's just, I can't unsee it once I see it. I have to expression body the members. I have to. I don't know why. And IntelliCode is really wanting to do all the methods, but I really don't want to just turn it loose on this thing. I would really like to spot check them. I know, IntelliCode, you are awesome, and I mostly trust you, just not any further than I can see. Okay, so I think we want to just call internal close on from that callback. Sorry, I'm just spot checking. See if there's more C#9 goodness we can just load this thing up with. So I think what we want to do, I think we just want to call internal, I'm sorry, DialogHost what does it use this close parameter for? Boy, I do wonder if okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to bookmark this. We're going to jump to internal close because it seems like there's some overlap here. So the attach closing event gets invoked. Dialog closing callback gets invoked. Async show gets invoked. Bookmark that too, please, and let's just bounce back and forth. So yeah, I mean, this is bypassing all the events. And that's fundamentally the problem. I'm wondering if maybe rather than having this one call internal close, if the logic of internal close should come into here. Or some of the logic, right? So and part of the reason for doing this is these events here give the option of cancellation. The problem being is if dialog closing, so this gets interesting. If the dialog closing event gets invoked because the property changes, If that gets invoked due to the property changing, then you really can't cancel it. There's not a clean option, because you'll note this guy grabs, it takes the parameter, sets it into the session. I'm thinking what needs to happen is this logic needs to be broken out. I think that's what needs to happen, is this needs to be broken out. Into a separate event. This guy here moves down with this. And I think this needs to go into a separate method that returns the is canceled state. Because in this situation, cancellation is possible. In the Boolean situation, the property has changed. I'm just torn between flipping the property back, which is usually weird and frowned upon. Like the moment you take a dependency property and you toggle it back, like that is not how you should cancel a dialog closing. If you want to, because if you've set that Boolean, you are in control of when that dialog closes. You should be blocking that close in your code, my opinion. Yeah, I think straightforward. I'm going to put that in there. So why is this internal? I'm guessing it must be called, oh, because it's called from the session. Yeah, and set current value ends up doing nothing if it's already there. I'm just worried I'm going to end up double dipping, but I guess I wouldn't. Right? Because I just don't want the count to go up twice. Because if I call this method here and I call it from inside of the is opened change, I could end up raising the event twice. Yeah, and I'm worried that I don't want to. Boy, this is a weird chicken and the egg problem. So all of this stuff is fine. This is just very much past the point of no return. I'm somewhat thinking we could handle it here. Because if we handled it inside of this guy, he knows if the session's already been ended. Right? Because I'm wondering if going through the session is the right way to handle this, because this guy's he already knows if it's ended and can be intelligent about what to do. So I'm wondering if let's look. How does this other one handle it? Sets it to ended, does the callback, so it would only do it here. I'm thinking it's a little unusual, but I'm wondering if we leverage this. Specifically going into here. So if we have a session, right? If we get a session, so how about if session is not ended, right? Then we will do session dot close. And I believe close uses the internal parameter, right? No, he doesn't use internal parameter. So we should session close parameter. And close, we call internal close, and internal close would handle the is ended. So this will fix the bug. The part that bothers me is I kind of want to, what is open, lost my bookmark, is I kind of want to check here and say something like, if not session is ended, throw. Because if somebody cancels out the dialog, it's probably not valid at that point to continue, right? Because if they've canceled, it just doesn't make sense to cancel after the, because this gets called after the thing has been closed. Throw new invalid operation exception. Cannot cancel dialog closing from open callback. I don't like this name, but that at least gets the point across, right? And so now we no longer need to set this. We can cache the close parameter. So if somebody changed it in one of the callbacks, we can get the new one, use it here. Task completion result gets set there. There should be no loop. Let's at least validate our one test, because I think this fixes the one case in question. Because this is a weird chicken and the egg approach. This is the times where I'm very happy to have tests, because this is the type of change that's, oh, interesting. That didn't cause it. So either there's a flaw in the test. Well, let's go back, right? Because this was based on which sample is sample 4. Yeah, so let's go to sample 4 in the let's just test this in the demo and confirm that we can confirm what we think we see in our test. Sample 4, right? So this guy is here, and we get dialog closing, right? Sure, new event handler, right? And because all I care about is hitting breakpoints. I just want to see the event get raised. I want to know, is my test flawed or is my fix flawed? Let's go here, this guy here, and then if we click a button, I probably should hit cancel. That would have made more sense. Okay, so we did dialog closing, internal close. So in is opened. We hit our new code. We close, close, dialog closing, raise the event, comes through. Okay, so that's not a good sign. Oh, is this returning the wrong? Right? I wonder if I can't do plus. Because I'm trying, I always get those backwards. Increment, because plus plus returns the value before though, doesn't it? Nope, that was the bug. Okay, so now the test passes and everyone's happy. Okay, so that is muchos better. Muchos better. Okay, so we'll do that. Clean that up. Let's see. So I want to leave that. I think I leave that. You know what? Actually, none of these changes don't matter. The type I know is superfluous, but we'll leave that there. DialogHost tests brings that in. Right. So we still need. So hang on. So let's stage. Stage folder. This test is fine. Stage file. The project's fine. DialogHost. This change we don't need, so we're going to discard that. This change is fine. We'll bring that in. Dialog session, that change is fine. We'll bring this in. This, not so fine. This one, I want to fix this. I'm just worried that I've introduced a bug there. And I'm trying to think or to reason my way through that. All right, landed right on one. Sorry, I just want to go through some of these other dialogues and see if there's... So it doesn't... So it doesn't appear to break any of the other ones either. So that's good. Okay. And this shouldn't be a breaking change because nobody could be getting into this code path prior to this change because the event wasn't being raised. I just have to look. See, this is one of those weird cases where I don't like the expression bodied member there. What are you suggesting here? More expression body members? Okay. Sure, we'll do those. Sure, we'll do that. We're in here and changing it. Let's clean up the whole class. That's just a bookmark. Oh, you want to change to the new switch expression. Let's look. Is that cleaner looking? Very much so. Let's bring you down and just indent a little bit. So for people who are unfamiliar with this is the new C#9 switch expression. It's quite powerful. The key difference between it and a switch statement that we had previously is a switch expression is a returning expression. So it's sort of for people who are familiar with like pipelining or a little bit more functionally style stuff. This input is the value that goes into the switch, the thing that you would previously have put in the parens. And then rather than doing, case, colon, and whatnot, we can actually do a lot more expressive syntax inside of here. And so these don't necessarily have to be compile time constants. They can contain expressions. And then rather than a colon and do some work, it's just a straight lambda. So you are limited in the sense that you can't do like the curly brace long stuff, but you can do straight up expressions, and they can return values, which is what gets assigned here. So that's what the convenient analyzer realized, that was effectively what we were doing with our previous one, and it very helpfully rewrote it. This guy down here is called a discard character, and so this is effectively your default case from the previous switch expression. Okay, so there's that, and I wanted to change this up. Cannot cancel dialog closing after is open property has been set to false. I think I'm just going to do that, and then we're going to do some little name of magic because that's cleaner. The only part that's giving me pause is I don't like the fact that I'm relying on knowing that this method calls into internal close, which will set this thing back to false. Right? There's a little bit. This warrants at minimum a comment. Session close may attempt to cancel the closing of the dialog when the dialog is closed. In this manner, it is not valid. So if you are ending up getting this exception, you should go through one of the, and actually let's change this, dialog session. You should use one of the other close methods, not the binding to the Boolean, or handle it yourself and block closing there, right? Don't rely on the event for that case. Okay, so we got a test, we got a fix. Once again, we are on the wrong branch. So let's do a couple things. One, I think our other PR is probably good to merge now. It's not. What the heck? Oh. Oh, that's interesting. We may have broken something. Okay, so we're going to look at that a little closer because we changed the dialog and then one of the dialog tests failed. So that is a thing that we could have done. So we are going to create a new branch here. Fix. And then let's put the number in there. Boop. Just like that. And then check the changes here. I assume they're the exact ones we just did. I don't know why discard. I don't know why I added that white space. Those all look good to me. Stage. Let's see. Closing. Let's see. Closing dialog with is open property now raises closing event. Fixes that. Boom. So push that guy, push that guy. We will go and open a PR for it. And we're going to take a look at this UI test because do this, create pull request. And this is why I have this guy here. So it is, so show me more details. But I want to switch, well, first of all, let's switch to the right branch. So this is our first fix, 2279. Fix 2279. So we are here. So back into here. And then this guy claimed that one of the DialogHost tests is failing. And there's only one, so not a lot. I'm curious what we possibly did to break this test. But we'll give it a minute to run, and then we will check it out. I'm being hesitant to touch the mouse because anything that requires clicking, if you jiggle the mouse too quick while these tests are running, you can break them. Because unfortunately, you only get a single cursor in Windows. Come on, what are you doing? Oh, that's cool. I just noticed the output window was colored. That's a pretty neat feature. Wonder when that happened. I remember a very long time ago, there was a Visual Studio release that occurred where all of the buttons went from nice, pretty colors to gray. And there was, we will say, a small outcry among developers that like their color. And it was interesting to say the least. Finally, there we're going. Interesting. So it does, in fact, fail. So what are you doing here? So let's see. So it launches the app. It clicks overlay, get visibility. So it waits for it to become not visible. So it's expecting to be able to click this close button, but it's not able to do so. Why would our change have broken this? We didn't. So it waits for the close dialog button to become visible. Then it clicks on the overlay. Oh. Oh, I wonder if it's not. Okay, so I want to grab it here. I have a sinking suspicion that when it does this click, it's actually landing right, because there's nothing in this test that ensures that it clicks in the appropriate spot on the dialog. So right, so it's gotten the dialog open, and it's about to do a click, and I'm willing to bet that our changes have shifted it just enough such that it's going to click dead center on the overlay about here. So if I do continue, yeah, you'll note it clicked. Yeah. So this guy here needs to not... Because this click method, the way it's implemented is it doesn't click... It doesn't click on a element. It just gets the element's coordinates and clicks at those coordinates, which can be problematic in this case when you've got a pop-up over the top of it. So I believe what this is doing is this is just going to the center. I'm a little... Wait, this is test overlay button. I need to look at this. So let's look at the control itself. UI test samples with counter, right? So this guy has test overlay button. So which one is this? Test overlay button. So this guy here is actually over on the left. So that... So it's clicking on the overlay and asserting that the clicks remain at 1. So this wait is a little superfluous because it should not change. It then closes the dialog, but it times out. So then it clicks to close the dialog and then waits for the overlay visibility to go away. So the close dialog button is functionally what's not working. The close dialog button should be just using the routed command. This doesn't... Our other change wasn't in there. We didn't change any of this. Okay, so it got to there. Interesting. Clicking here does nothing. In fact, clicking anywhere does nothing. It's not hung. So even though this is paused, this test spins a new process. So this process is independent of whether the test is paused or not, which is rather convenient in my mind for doing this level of UI test. Is you can click and muck with stuff, but I don't understand why. Did we leave like an is hit test visible or something on there? Oh. This border wraps the card, which would mean if close on click away is false, it's impossible to actually click into the dialog. Well, I'm glad we have these tests now. So that is problematic. That is a legitimate bug. Okay, so this is why I love my UI tests. Absolutely love them, because I would have totally shipped that bug. And that would have been dumb of me and horrible, and people would have been unhappy. Let's go down here and change this guy. Is hit test visible true? I think if I embed it that way, because the card should always be hit testable regardless of its parents. And I'm trying to remember if you can do this where you override it at a child level or if the parent's going to always win. Like, I think you can change it. I'm just trying to remember if it has an effect. There were build errors. No. Oh, there were probably build errors because I left the thing running. Let's try that again. That may or may not have caused a problem. Click, 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 click. Yeah, so it's not... so this is not a great fix. So I always need you to be hit test visible. I can't turn you off. But I only want... I mean, I guess I have to do this with a style trigger now. I don't know of another way to do this. Of conditionally setting input bindings. Is there an easier way around this? The other option is I could nest. Rather than having the border be a parent, I could have the border be a sibling instead. That might be cleaner. Let's go that approach. I'm thinking that is probably better. Because if I make this guy a sibling, right, this comes away. I think that works a little bit better. And we may, I'm somewhat tempted to write another test now on this, given how easily this was to break. I'm also realizing I'm past my 2-hour mark. That's okay. That's okay. But yay! Test pass! Huzzah! I want to run through the demo real quick. We've done so much dialogue-y stuff. Chance of breakages is high. Okay, so cancel. Cancel. Awesome. Accept. Accept. All right. Cancel. Accept. Cancel. Okay. A little more convinced. Let's see. View changes. Fixing issue where dialog wasn't hit testable. Do you have any experience with SQL? Some. Can you be more specific? Most of my experience is around MS SQL and SQLite. So in terms of those, yes. Or if it's a general SQL question, I may have some help. Okay, so let's circle back here. This guy should now rerun. And then let's jump back. What did I break here? Boy, I'm batting 1,000 here, aren't I? Yeah, unable to find package. I do not understand why DevOps occasionally does this to me. Very, very annoying. But hopefully this will queue up and then we will see. But yeah, Sanjam, if you want to type your question, I will take a shot at it while waiting for these things to finish, and then hopefully wrap this stream up with merging a couple pull requests and being done. That would be ideal. Let's see. Going crazy with this air now. Trying to show the names of astronauts that have 2 or more email addresses. So I guess the question would be, yeah, I'm guessing I'll wait and see what you have to say, because I'm guessing you've got astronauts in one table and email addresses in a second table, and this is a joining problem. That would be my gut reaction, but it kind of requires knowing a little bit about your table structure. Okay, so that goes there. That fixes there. So put that guy there. And this guy has already been moved into there. And I'll check the one that we did a second ago. Oh, we haven't merged it yet. So that's fine. Yeah, it is fine. I do wish there was a convenient way, and I may poke at doing a GitHub action for it. I'd love it if PRs that close issues, if they would automatically move the issue into the same milestone as the PR. That does get a little weird, and I think I'd probably only want it to trigger when there was no milestone previously set, because there are times where things move across. So let's see here. Select astronaut. Here, I'm gonna copy this into a VS Code instance so I can format this. Where's my window? Where is my window? Boom. Okay, so let's see. This gives me what I'm looking for, except it doesn't have the filter of 2 in there anywhere. So let's see. We've got 2 selects. We've got a count, and you've got an inner join on a email and group by astronaut AD. So so again, without knowing too much about that, usually you can give, when you're doing these selects up along each of these, and I'm sorry, that's tiny. So first, I'm going to preface this with I am not much of a DBA, but I know a lot. I know enough to be dangerous. So if it were me, I believe, depending on your flavor of SQL, you can give these columns names. I believe the syntax is as, I don't know, something like that, as count. And then I believe what you would want to do where count, greater than or equal to 2. Something to that effect, depending on your flavor of SQL. And again, it does depend a little bit on your flavor, but this is somewhat generic. And it may be name without the single ticks. The single ticks are usually around there for, because you could have spaces, count foo or whatever. And then you have to disambiguate, so you might be able to omit the single ticks and go that route, I would imagine. So I guess the key thing there to note is finding that. The other thing is this is an inner join, and I guess it depends on exactly what you're looking for, because the difference with your different joins in SQL is how it handles the missing record case, right? So if you have a row in your astronaut table where you do not have a corresponding row in email or vice versa, inner join, I believe, is the intersection. So you will only get returned results where there is one in both. And in this case, that's because you're looking for a count on those. That's probably what you're looking for. It's slightly more common to do left joins or left outer joins, because you won't drop records on if something's missing. But in this case, because you're explicitly looking for a count of 2, this is probably what you want. Though I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that this sounds a lot like a homework problem. Just guessing. But it is important to know the difference. Yeah, and like I said, I think the key thing here is just knowing this. And you might even be able to drop, unless you actually need to see the count. I suspect you can probably also do this and drop. I suspect you can also get away with something like that as well and put it in. I imagine. Where count a email. So the only thing that's a little weird here. Well, hold on. Something isn't lining up right. So I'm wondering if the where is supposed to come down here, and this actually needs to be disambiguated. I'm wondering if that. Right, because ultimately what you're hunting for is the number of items in the group. I believe. Because you said that so that initial select query you were saying gives you the results you were expecting. It just doesn't filter down by the count of 2. So given that knowledge, if this is actually giving you what you want, I think this is probably what you want. But you may need to move the where clause down. That would be what I would try. Is that, because I think the kicker will be naming the column and then using that named column to be able to get access to it. Because it's somewhat, you can actually get fairly fancy in SQL where you can do like subqueries, and oftentimes those things will be effectively computed columns, which is what this count is it's a computed value. It's not correlating to an actual column on one of your tables. And so being able to give it a name such that you can then use it later in your query, I think is what you're looking for. If I was guessing. Okay, so I think we have some success. Okay, so this guy now passes. Show checks, build success. Great, great, great. Squash merge. Delete branch. Pull request up here. I think we were careful enough that it didn't conflict. Great, great. Checks pass, squash merge, confirm squash merge. Delete branch. Okay, and I think that roughly wraps up sort of where I was looking to go. And gets a bunch of PRs merged, and this one will probably end up merging tomorrow. I imagine Tyson will probably do that. And worst case scenario, I'll go and make that change too. It's not a big deal. But it gives me a little bit of time to think it over and make sure that it is as expected. I'm still a little on the fence, but we'll circle back to that. With that said, though, I am running low on Mountain Dew and caffeine and should probably wrap it up for the night. Sam Jam, if you are still running into problems, you can hit me up on Twitter too if that would be helpful. Like I said, not much of a DBA, but happy to take a look. So if I can type, you can find me there. And I think there's actually a link to my various profiles in the description below as well. So with that, I'm going to sign off. Tell everyone happy coding. See you next week.